Okay, so we are live. Hi, everyone. I'm glad to host Jim Ziegler today. Jim is an expert in the automotive field in the United States, a pretty recognizable person. Jim has had a chance to teach over 100,000 people from the field. This audience has been invited to his seminars, webinars, and all the events has had a chance to participate in. So, Jim, you have started your career from 1986, if I'm not mistaken. So quite a
Oh,
long
you're
time.
mistaken. Yes, I
Okay.
started my career in 1976.
Mm-hmm.
I started this business in 1986. So yeah,
All
I started selling cars in 1976, 42 years ago.
right. Wow. I
Yeah.
haven't been on this planet at that time. Pretty fascinating. So, how things have changed from the time when you started your career and you just joined the automotive field in the United States, and how it has changed now? How does that look like today in
Oh my
2000?
gosh. 42 years ago, it was pen and paper. It was the
Mhm.
newspaper was your main source of advertising. And
Right.
today newspaper is only valuable if you are training your puppy.
Hmm.
You know, it's
Yeah.
it's you know, technology has changed. I've had to reinvent myself many times over the years as technology moved forward, and keeping up and staying ahead of the trends has been very important. So
Hmm.
technology is all encompassing today because the website is the showroom, not the physical bricks and mortar building. Google is the weapon. It's all changed, and you have to be proficient. Margo, the internet has not sold one additional automobile that we wouldn't have sold without the internet.
Hmm.
All it did was put vendors between us and the customers and taking part of the profit or most of the profit in some cases. It deprofitized the cars. But all of that being said, the internet has not sold any additional cars, but it redistributes who get the deal.
Hmm.
It redistributed which the most proficient dealers, the most savvy dealers, the most efficient dealers are going to get the business. And it's very important that you be not only on top of your technology, but on top of your processes. Your
Hmm.
processes have to be good, and your people have to adhere to your processes. And that's what we're going to talk about today. If you're going to win the race for a client, and that client is distributed to 5 or 6 different dealers, not only do you have to be first to that client, you have to be most efficient at achieving the appointment and the show up of the appointment and the ultimate sale.
Yes, Jim. But how do you define that the most efficient dealer? Uh, what does that mean to be on the top?
Well, Margo, most leads are wasted.
Hmm.
The overwhelming majority of leads are mishandled and they drift off into infinity and nobody ever makes a deal. Or worse yet, your competitor made the deal because they outperformed you. And
Hmm.
we're at a highly competitive market. Consumers are not walking into the showroom, they're walking onto the keyboard
Hmm.
and they're doing their research, and you have to be there. And that's the biggest problem today is dealers are not there when they call.
Hmm. I have had a chance to participate in the research we've done for in the automotive field in the United States. So we've examined something like around 500 dealerships in the United States. We have found out that majority of the dealerships are their presence online is pretty low. First of all, secondly, their websites are something like from 90s, so it's like over almost 20 years after. But we call, like, a young generation calls these websites like from the beginning of the internet. They are not optimized. If I'm gonna look for a car from my mobile phone, from the smartphone, I'm not gonna have the same experience as I could have searching for this car online from my laptop, because the website is not optimized for smaller device.
The overwhelming majority, and I don't like statistics.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on who's telling you the statistic, whether the statistic is valid.
Okay.
But I'm going to talk from experiential observation, things I have seen. And what I have seen is that the overwhelming majority of people contacting a dealership are on a handheld mobile device. And your mobile website has to be as efficient, more efficient than your previous desktop application of your website.
Mm-hmm. Right, that's true. And also, I do like the point that you have mentioned about the processes. I have been talking with multiple sales leaders from different fields, just going beyond automotive industry, but all of them focus on processes. And they say that you can be creative as you want, to that extent as you want, but you have to put yourself in specific frameworks and specific processes to succeed in sales. What is, in your opinion, a successful process, and how should that be organized in a dealership? Because dealership is definitely a totally different market than any other business, right?
There is no business like the retail automobile business. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a believer in business development center. As a matter of fact, I'm beyond that. I'm a believer in business communication center. I believe that every dealership should have a center, whether it's 2 people or 20 people, that communicate all inbound and outbound communications online and telephone with that dealership. It's amazing that so many customer inquiries go unanswered for hours, days, and your competitor has got, if they outperform you and whoever gets to that customer first has an overwhelming percentage possibility of making that sale. The first person to reach that consumer, especially if they can reach the consumer while the consumer is still on their device making the inquiry. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. But how about that moment when someone submits a request from on email or I don't know, chat window? That's right now we see a lot of dealerships are practicing this, and they don't get the response next I don't know 30 minutes, so they leave the website and they're looking for something different. What is the major way for customers to communicate with the dealerships in the United States? Because I'm coming from Poland and we probably have a totally different approach. In your opinion, what is the main channel for communication with customers in a dealership?
Well, the most communication today is coming in from lead providers,
Mm-hmm.
Cars.com, Auto Trader, Car Gurus, Edmunds.com, Lot Links. There's these lead providers are submitting, the leads, but they submit those same leads to 5 or 6 dealers sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You're not the only dealer that got that lead. So here we have a lead provider, and you paid a lot for that lead. And if your people aren't the first response to that lead, if they're not coming in more quickly than your competitor, you have an infinitely high percentage chance of not making that deal that you paid for.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you've got to answer the phone quickly. You've got if that lead has a phone number in that lead in the form they filled out, your people have to respond quickly. And
Mm-hmm.
more than 5 minutes, you've lost the deal. And there's so many dealers that, can I give you an example?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My wife and I are moving to Atlanta. We're leaving Florida. So about 6 weeks ago, I sold her car. Now, the way I sold her car is I went on Kelley Blue Book online and got the cash offer. And Kelley Blue Book said to me that I would receive phone calls from 5 dealers. And they named the 5 dealers. I take that back. It was 3 dealers. that they said these 3 dealers would call me, and one dealer responded to me within 5 minutes with a cash offer for my wife's car. And I said, yeah, that's a fair deal. I'm in the industry. I know what cars are worth. I said, yeah, I'll do that. So my wife and I drove her car to the dealership a couple miles away, and the dealer wrote me a check for the car. And while I was sitting in that dealer's showroom, a franchise dealer called me 45 minutes later. And I was sitting there with a check in my hand from the dealer that called me in 5 minutes. And the funny thing was, I could look out the window and see the other dealer that was calling me, just a couple hundred feet away. So the dealer lost my business because they didn't respond as quickly as the dealer that responded in 5 minutes. And that is what we're dealing with the internet today. Our people are not responding, or worse yet, they're responding with an auto response text that is a form template. And if they're using the same computer program that other dealers are using, it's the same words. One of our biggest successes lately has been fast, efficient response with video.
Mm-hmm.
We have one of my proteges, one of my friends, one of my most skillful women in the car business is Elise Kephart. And Elise Kephart is a superstar in the U.S. car business. And one thing about her, she can get a video in that customer's hands, personalized to them, calling them by their name in less than 2 minutes. And that is so good because she has certain pre-recorded videos, clips that she puts in the video, and she greets them by their name, and it looks like it's all prepared especially for them, but actually it's a combination of her pre-recorded clips and the live greeting, and then she calls them. And it is absolutely phenomenal, the responses she gets.
It's amazing. Video content is on the rise, definitely.
Well, video response, responding to a lead with video when everybody else is sending flat text messages, is and it personalized, calling the people by their names. It absolutely accelerates. That's why she is such a superstar with her techniques. And years ago, I was pioneering video in the business when we had the old flip cameras. And I was standing on stage educating people how you could use a flip camera and send a customer a customized video, which, of course, technology has advanced way beyond that.
Yeah. So lots of things have changed since the time when you started. And if you could gather all your experience and all your thoughts about how dealers get their leads online. So you mentioned about those middlemen, right, that are selling leads to dealerships, to many different dealerships, to multiple.
The lead providers, yes, absolutely.
Providers. What are other ways to get leads from?
Well, of course, Google AdWords has always been, pay-per-click has always been the major source of leads that are self-generated. But you've got to remember now, the lead providers, these vendors, are also using a lot of pay-per-click, and they're using a lot of sources where they buy leads on an open market. Think about leads, Facebook and social media leads are actually selling a lot of cars today, and they're selling a lot of cars cheaper than even some of the pay-per-clicks. But there are tools today where a dealer can measure, what your competitors are doing, what your competitors are spending, what words and phrases they are using. Because Google is like an amoeba; it's ever changing its shape. You're never going to get on top of Google, and you're never going to trick Google. Google is wise to whatever shenanigans people would try. So content and content words. Google wants to deliver a meaningful experience to the searcher, the person that is searching. So getting a meaningful experience to that consumer to generate the lead. But we're missing the point. Most leads in the dealerships that I go to, and I have dealt with hundreds of thousands of car people, hundreds of thousands. I have been in dealerships and actually worked in dealerships in 49 of our 50 states. So I'm talking things I have seen. I'm talking experience here. I don't trust statistics, especially when statistics are provided by the vendor trying to sell you something. you know, I have a saying that figures lie and liars figure. So you have to be real careful whose statistics you believe. But things I have observed, things I have seen, I go to dealerships and their CRM, their customer relationship management system, has thousands and thousands of dead leads. Leads that came into the dealership. They did not make a deal. Maybe the competitor made the deal. Maybe the customer got out of the market. But the deal was not made. And those leads are just sitting there. And people don't realize you've stopped marketing to those leads. You paid for those leads. You've got them in your CRM. They're living, breathing human beings in your market. They are people. And you're not contacting them. You're not marketing to them. Maybe they bought a car somewhere else, but you could use your service business. Maybe they didn't buy a car. Maybe they have a family member about to buy a car. Maybe they're about to buy a third car. You got to do what I call retro marketing. You've got to market to your past customers and to the deals you didn't make. So does that make sense?
True. Jim, I definitely like to extend on that. So probably salespeople would understand that in the first row. So once you have a cold lead, for example, you bought it somewhere, someone has provided it for you. So what are the next steps for dealers in the United States to contact those leads? Because I guess that probably this first contact is gonna be very cold, and majority of people would just not listen to details, would just reject the call.
Some customers wish to be contacted, and other customers are looking for information only. And you have to differentiate who you're dealing with. That doesn't mean you can't contact them. It means the internet department should not be selling the car. We don't want to sell the car in the internet department. All we want to do is make a relationship with the consumer, gain their trust, convert the email address to a phone number if you don't have a phone number, and get a conversation with that consumer. Now, consumers communicate in different modalities. They might be visual people. They might be auditory people. They want to talk on the phone. They might be keyboard people. You have to determine who you're dealing with, what type of customer you have, and how they wish to be communicated with or not at all. So the first business of a business development center is to generate an appointment, and then a manager to verify that appointment, and then to get the customer to actually show up in the dealership, and ultimately to make a sale. And so many dealers are not using their Google Analytics to see the performance of their AdWords and their pay-per-clicks. And they need to do that. To take an accurate measurement of what's going on. How efficient and basically how your competitors are penetrating into your online market. You've got competitors that are taking business away from you, that coming in under the radar and stealing your leads. So you've got to be aware of Facebook advertising is extremely strong. But once again, it's a very inexpensive pay-per-click You got to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have to harness these digital channels. The main channels are Google Ads and Facebook Ads. Yeah, I've heard multiple times from multiple dealers that they are actually doing that and they are successful. But what they are saying is that this cycle is pretty long. That once a person sees and starts considering buying a car, the process from him or her considering buying a car and actually buying a car is quite long. What do you think about this process, and what are the ways to shorten it and bring a customer closer to a deal?
Well, buying a car is actually in the U.S. more paperwork
Mm-hmm.
than buying a home.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So anyway, it's going to take a period of time. And a lot of this can be blamed on the consumer. I'm not defending the dealers totally, but I'm going to say the consumers cause a lot of the log jams in the process. They don't let it go smoothly. They indecision. There's a lot of things that happen with the consumer that slows up the process, and statistics don't show that. But if I can get a car sale under 2 hours, not 45 minutes. 45 minutes will be a dissatisfied consumer. They'll make the wrong selection. There's a lot that goes into it. Second largest purchase you will ever make in your life. But I've seen dealers that the process takes 4 hours. Far too long. If I can get the entire process from selection of the vehicle and down to the delivery and the taillights and waving goodbye to them. And the thing technology can do to alleviate this is to do a lot of the preliminary paperwork online before the consumer gets to the dealership. If we can get the consumer to initiate a lot of the preliminaries, a lot of the questions that the government and whatever, if we can get that done, it'll definitely speed up the process. A lot of people are saying they want the process under 45 minutes. That's never going to realistically happen. But getting the process under 2 hours from the time they show up to the time they leave, provided they're not indecisive, that is very, very, very doable.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned this situation when a customer is already in a showroom and is considering different options. But I guess some dealerships in the US might have problems with acquiring lead sources, right? So they need more customers, like an ideal customer who comes and finishes the deal in maximum 2 hours. They want they want more, right? So how to get these customers?
The customers always want more, and that's the problem. There's very little profit in an automobile today. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, if you really looked at it, new cars are sold at a loss. Mm-hmm. If you look at the stats across the country, the manufacturers have squeezed the dealers so tightly that the car is a loss leader to obtain service business. Mm-hmm. So consumers are unrealistic about how much profit the dealer has to work with, because years ago they had a lot of profit. So there's a lot of people say they don't want to haggle, they don't want to negotiate, but negotiation is driven by the consumer. I don't want you negotiating, but I want to negotiate. So where do you go? So the dealers, for the ones I know, and I work with thousands, they want to be more customer friendly. They want to be more time efficient. But a lot of the bottlenecks are coming from credit. Mm-hmm. Credit is a major, major problem today. The consumers, we've gone to 84-month financing. I saw some credit unions recently go to 120-month financing. When you finance an automobile for 120 months, you're not able to trade that vehicle for years, beyond 5, beyond 6. 72-month financing today is the norm, and that's too long. So to get the payments down where a consumer can afford the payments. Most negotiation today is the consumer wanting a lower payment. Most consumers don't even care about the price.
Mm-hmm.
It's the payment that drives the sale. So leasing is a better alternative, but the manufacturer's lease programs are not as good as they once were. And it's a major dilemma. The manufacturers realize this. They're trying subscription cars. That did not work. They're trying creative leasing. That is working, and consumers still want that mindset where they own the car. They're not totally buying into leasing in mass.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what we're dealing with. And dealers have been trying to solve this, and financing online is the hardest thing because consumers are unrealistic because manufacturers and lenders, all banks, charge different interest rates to different people depending on their past credit history and the amount of their down payment.
Mm-hmm.
And consumers don't fathom this. If they have poor credit, they're going to get a high interest rate, not because the dealer wants that the bank demands that. It is
Mm-hmm.
rate to the risk. And and somewhere the credit scores today run anywhere from 300s, low 300s, 320, 350, all the way to 900. 900 is excellent credit score. 350, they can't even get financed. 600 is the number that separates good credit and bad credit.
Mm-hmm.
So if the consumer's credit is below 600, they go into a high interest rate category. And, we can't change that. That's what the banks demand to even finance the deal. So the bottlenecks today are greatly involved in financing because a high percentage of consumers have poor credit. And an even higher percentage of consumers owe more on their trade-in than it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
So the banks are assigning a higher interest rate to people that they have to finance additional equity when the customer's what we call in the business upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
that
interesting.
causes a big problem because consumers owe so much more on their cars than they're worth because of the long-term financing and the fact that they did not put a down payment on the previous vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Down payment is the key to solving all of our problems, and consumers are not coming up with cash down payments. And the dealers are doing a poor job of getting down payments. The dealers I work with are averaging high down payments because we ask for it. We work with the customer to explain why they need the down payment. And believe it or not, most consumers have a down payment. The dealers are very, very poor job of getting a down payment from the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to give you a down payment. But once you explain it to them and you show them that they're going to get a better rate, they're going to more likely to be financed, then they'll give you a down payment.
Yeah, this definitely depends on the level of education of the target audience. So I guess there are some people who may not know the specifics of the US automotive field. Could you just give us an overview of how the environment of the field looks like? Because for me, for a person coming from Europe, the automotive field in the US looks like that there is one dealership and there is no other dealerships in the range of, I don't know, 20 kilometers or 30 kilometers. For instance, if I just go outside of the building, I will definitely find at least two dealerships in the range of less than 1 kilometer around me. What is the situation in the
Well,
United
U.S. franchise laws in most states require at least a 7-mile separation.
States?
Same type of vehicle, same make. And the franchise laws were created basically to protect the dealers and the consumers.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Europe. I have been in Great Britain, England. I've been
Mm-hmm.
there quite a few times. I know a lot of those dealers. and it's a much different market in Europe, a much different market. We're selling right now about 60 million new and used vehicles here, and that's just from dealerships, not counting private sales. We're selling 16, 17 million new cars annually. So that is another big problem, Margot, in the U.S. market. There are only 200 million licensed drivers in the United States. 200 million people with a license to drive a vehicle. And we've been selling them 60 and 70 million cars a year for the last 5 or 6 years. Everybody that's got one, wants one, has one. you can't keep cramming those numbers. There's not enough millennials coming of age to buy a car. There's not enough seniors dying off to make up for that deficit. Cars are lasting so much longer. Financing is so much longer. So where are we going to get additional customers is another big problem.
Mm-hmm.
If a dealer is going to thrive and survive in the next couple years, now that we have reached a close to saturation market, where everybody that wants one has one, they last longer, you're going to have to take that business. Here's your theme. We're going to have to take that business away from a competitor that wants the business too.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to absolutely be able to defeat your same brand competition. You've got to take that business away from them. And to do that, the efficiency of your process, your customer first contact, first impression, what content do you give that customer that makes the appointment? So many variable factors coming into all of this.
Right. And you mentioned about getting additional business apart from selling vehicles. What do you think about selling services to existing customers? What chunk of income for a dealership or a typical dealership should it make? Upsell.
Well, the service department makes a lot of money for a dealership because cars are lasting longer, people are keeping them longer, and the top of a car's repair curve is about 42 months.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, a car in the first 3 years of the average car's lifetime, the average cost of repair is under $150. In the second half of a car's lifetime, the average repair is over $850. So 42 months, that car begins to become expensive. At 42 months, the cost of repairs is going up. There's items like brakes, McPherson stretch suspension. There's all sorts of items that are starting to wear out, that are starting to need to be replaced. Tires can come into that. There's all kinds of things you're going to have to do to a car after 42 months. So the cost of ownership goes way up after 3.5 years. So service absorbs that time since cars are lasting longer. People have financed them for so long they can't trade them in yet.
Mm-hmm.
So service is getting to be a big business. And there needs to be a service BDC, business development center. So many dealers are focused on sales that they're not focused on service. And service is a better profit center than sales in many dealerships. So being sure you have a service business development center,
Mm-hmm.
that you are contacting customers about their service, you're upselling the consumer. Like when I go to a dealership and I see the people on the service lane where they come in, where they check in, I don't see the service writers, the people writing the ticket, trying to sell windshield wiper blades or any of the simple things that could add additional small dollar profit to the sale.
Mm-hmm. And how should service specialists behave? Or maybe not service specialists per se, but rather what should be the general strategy of a dealership in terms of service? How to tie a customer to a particular dealership? Because we are living in a extremely competitive market right now. So a customer is able to choose among multiple different service providers.
You're
What?
talking about what is your unique selling position? Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Mhm.
What is unique about your dealership? What is your unique sales service offer? I have dealerships right now that give customers free tires for life.
Mhm.
You
Okay.
know, as part of the initial sale, I have dealers that give customers free oil changes for life. Not as an upsell. I mean, not a maintenance upsell. They're actually giving that to the consumer. And uh, there are people that have a valet service where not only if your car's broken down, we'll come get it and we'll deliver you a loaner car while your car's in the service department. There are so many additional things, and a lot of the highline luxury cars do this as a matter of manufacturer demand.
Mhm.
The additional what I call concierge services
Mhm.
that other dealers don't offer. I have dealers that do back for the community. Now, this is a local dealer as opposed to a corporation. A lot of the dealerships in the U.S. are owned by big corporations. Now, a local dealer, a mom and pop family owned dealership, can defeat the corporations by community involvement. And what I mean by that is getting out and being members of the community organizations and contributing to the consumer charities in the organizations. Being part of the community. And you say you are historically and emotionally invested in your community. So that is what we're doing today. I had a dealer named Mark Heitz who was in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Now he sold that dealership to a corporate dealer because he wouldn't conform to the factory. He built an amphitheater on his property for the community to use for the local events. I'm talking about a really upscale amphitheater. He built conference rooms in his dealership that local organizations could hold their meetings. you know and when the dealership becomes part of the community and becomes a contributor to the community, people will reciprocate and do business with your dealership. I
Mhm.
can't tell you. I had a dealership that in Brunswick, Georgia, a Toyota dealership. I talked them into installing a car wash at the street.
Hmm.
Just a car wash, just water and then we started booking that car wash for the local cheerleaders, the local clubs for their fundraisers. So every weekend, somebody was having a fundraiser at the dealership with all their people out there flagging cars into the dealership, creating a lot of excitement and creating community bonds. The dealer liked it so much, we built a barbecue pit on the other end of his dealership with picnic tables and a barbecue pit, and other organizations were having fundraisers selling their barbecue. And it was booked up for months in advance. All the organizations in the town were fighting to be part of those fundraisers.
Mhm.
So does that help?
It's pretty interesting. I'm trying to bring some analogy to generally organization of events, and I believe that organizing an event for I don't know 50 people might seem nothing in terms of marketing, but if you take into account that we've gone digital, I mean, also young people, that they start making some transmission of this event and it goes online and they tag that it's being
Ah,
done in a particular location. So it's going to be much more than just for 50 people, but it might even become for thousands of people in the.
yes, absolutely yes. You know, I've been in the business 42 years, and I've got 100,000 friends and followers now online. And for somebody like me to be teaching young people how to use the internet is phenomenal. You know, because I'm not supposed to know this.
Yeah, that's you have quite deep knowledge, and as you mentioned, on different case studies, also lots of experience doing this kind of things. Okay, Jim. So could we just summarize what particular steps, in your opinion, should every dealership make in order to increase sales and also increase number of upsells?
Okay, step number one.
Okay.
Marry your CRM.
Mm-hmm.
Become married to your customer relationship management system. Pay attention to your statistics. Have regular meetings. Be sure that your processes are followed by your employees. You see, Margot, in the car business, we don't have a knowing problem.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the US nor in Europe. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. We have a doing problem. They know what they're supposed to do, but they're not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody tells me we need more training. No, you don't. You need more doing. You've already trained them. You've already trained them. They're not doing it. And they're not doing it because you are not managing them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not, management is as weak as I have ever seen it in 42 years at managing car dealerships, managing the employees. And we're dealing with millennial employees, and that's like herding cats. You know, very difficult. But you still have to do that. You can't have a whole bunch of different people doing their own thing. It's got to be within the process. They have room for creativity. They got room for personality. We don't stifle or lock them up, but within the bounds of the process. Nobody is outside the process. Everybody must do the processes and we define our processes. That's the other thing dealers don't do. They have not quantified step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. They don't have the process quantified. Mm-hmm. Whose responsibility is this? Whose responsibility is this? And who do they report to? So processes and management is the first key. Respect for the process. Then business development center, business communication center. Those employees have to make at least 100 outbound phone calls a day. We're getting the leads. We've got more leads than we have people making the calls. 100 outbounds a day. The key is setting appointments. My sales representatives have to set appointments. And those appointments have to be verified by management, meaning management calls up, hello, Mrs. Jones, I see you talked to my employee, Kyle. This is Jim Ziegler. I'm General Sales Manager. I just want to say, please say hello to me when you come to the dealership today. You're not coming? Oh, you told Kyle you weren't coming. I'll have a word with Kyle. Okay. You see what I'm saying? The management needs to verify those appointments to be sure they're genuine appointments and not something just the salesperson submitted. So appointments are gold. Setting appointments is the key because the people are not walking onto the lot as they once did. They're not walking into the dealership. They're coming in through internet channels, telephone channels, texting channels. And we didn't even talk about that. Texting is a huge communications channel with your employees today. And there are laws that you have to opt in correctly to text them. And your people need to be educated on when you can text, when you can't text, what you can do. But texting, let me ask you a question, Margaret. Do you have email?
Yeah, sure.
Are there any emails in your email box right now that you haven't addressed?
Definitely, yes. Definitely, quite a lot of.
A bunch of them, right?
Yeah.
Are there any texts in your phone you haven't addressed?
Not really. I'm just responding.
You've responded to every text in your phone, but there are emails you don't respond to.
Yeah.
What's the best way to communicate with a consumer?
Definitely phone in this case.
If you can get a customer in a text conversation legally,
Mm-hmm.
it is a much better way to communicate with opt-in permission-based texting.
Mm-hmm.
Because your text is where that consumer is going to talk to you every time and get your every message. And you've got to have templates loaded into your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Things, responses that you can, one button, send to that consumer. The consumer, what about this? Let me send you a message. Just that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So text marketing and chat marketing are two very important things. And you've got to have 24-hour chat. You got to be able to chat with a consumer. How many consumers are shopping at midnight, late in the evening?
Mm-hmm.
And your employees are all gone home. Nobody's at the dealership. You've got to have a chat service of some kind that communicates with them when you're not at the dealership. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's services like that offered in Europe. There are many services offered like that in the US.
Mm-hmm.
24-hour chat. So when your employees go home, they can transfer it over to the 24-hour people who will continue to chat with the consumer. And the BDC is all important. I want that business communication center to have authority, to be able to basically answer consumers' questions without having to check with the sales manager back and forth. Consumers don't like back and forth, although they create a lot of it. The consumers send the salesperson back. I'll say to the consumer, you don't want that back and forth stuff? No. Well, then, are you going to pay all the money? No. Then you just created some back and forth stuff. You're the one sent my salesperson back. We didn't want to do that. You wanted to do that. We gave you a fair no haggle price, and you still want a better price.
That's true.
It's hard to win.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember, you've got to capture the contact info while they're still on their device. That is the key to winning the client, win the race for a client in the automotive industry. You've got to be in contact with that customer while they are still on their device when they make the inquiry. 5 minutes is too long. So your people have to be totally aware of incoming leads, especially leads that have a phone number. If that lead has a phone number, you've got to be on it in 5 minutes, or you'll be like the dealer that called me 45 minutes later when I was sitting in the other dealer's showroom that had contacted me in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Same difference. And a lot of wasted leads. When you call a customer, you stop them from shopping. If you call that customer in 5 minutes, they discontinue shopping onward.
Mm-hmm.
You become their dealer of choice. So response time and meaningful response time, appointment setting, capturing the customer's phone number so you can communicate with them, or at least get them to the appointment. Extremely important.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's a very good point. And just to summarize that, lead response time is extremely important in the automotive industry. Processes, setting up the processes, and most importantly, executing and sticking to them is our number 2 point. And also, this third point is to understand the specifics of how the automotive industry works in your region or in your country, and just being aware of it and adjusting to this environment. So, Jim, in case someone from our audience or people who are going to watch us after this webinar want to connect with you and get some more advice from you as a seasoned expert, how could they connect and how could they find you?
Okay, first of all, I come up 4.5 million times, 4.5 million times in Google. And that is me. I'm not very hard to find. My Facebook, I'm at limit on my personal page, but you can go to Alpha Dog, and a dog is DAWG, like on the screen, alphadogblog.com. And you can contact me there. Alpha Dog, DAWG blog.com. And I answer all my own phone calls. My phone, I'll give my phone number, US 770-851-2803. I take my calls. 770-851-2803. You know, that picture on the screen, is that picture of me in the podium on the screen right now? Is that picture up there?
Yes, there is one.
Yeah, the one that shows me speaking with a microphone?
Yeah.
That was recently where I received the Lifetime Achievement Award again. Everybody keeps giving me these Lifetime Achievement Awards. I'm telling you, I'm not going anywhere. I love my European friends. Anybody wants to contact me, please, by all means.
That's funny.
There's a lot of people wishing I would leave. these young guys and women, they say, when are you going to get off the stage? Never. Margot, I'm going to die on stage in front of a cheering audience. I'm just going to be up there speaking and grab my heart and boom.
Sounds like a plan.
It's a plan. There goes Jim. This has been great. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim, for this webinar. It was a great time. Lots of insights from the automotive fields in the United States. In case anyone has got some questions, you can type me or find Jim on LinkedIn or anywhere in his channels. Thanks you for this time, guys, and Jim, and see you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.